Welcome to the Reins of Leadership, the podcast dedicated to helping you lead with presence and influence with trust. I'm your host, Marinda Smith, business leadership strategist, sharing actionable insights on mindset, EQ and energy uniquely illuminated by wisdom gained alongside my equine partners. Hello and welcome, and for those new listeners, if this is your first time, then I really welcome you to my podcast. This episode's about two gorgeous donkeys that I have called Dotty and Sparky. So these two have so much to offer in the way of leadership. Let's just imagine it's 5 a.m. It's a summer morning. The sun is just starting to warm the dew on the pasture. And you're listening to the birds outside. Yet there's something strange that is also happening outside your window. It isn't just the beauty and the sounds of the birds, it's a crunching that belongs to an animal eating the grass where it shouldn't be. Then there's the sound of the tiny hooves, and I know exactly who it is. It's the minions at work. Our pair of mini donkeys. These furry anarchists who have once again overthrown the established order in our little farm. Welcome to the Reins of Leadership. Today we're going to be talking about a coup, a rebellion, one that started the minute that these donkeys arrived and continues today. Yet the story of them is more about teaching us about leadership than what leadership comes from business books. It's a story of, the uprising of the minis, Dotty and Sparky, and who really runs the show. Over the time that I've had this pair, I've been observing them as I do with all my animals. And when you observe them and you really slow down, you see that Dotty seemingly is doing nothing. Maybe she's just standing by the gate looking bored, or looking out across the paddock, or going for a stroll along the fence line. She sort of looks like she's bored and unknowing, yet she's not. I've learnt over time that she's actually collecting data. She's watching how the gate is latched. She notes which part of the fence sags when the wind blows. She is the quiet Chief Information Security Officer, finding the vulnerabilities in the system. This is leadership lesson number 1. Great strategy begins with deep, quiet observation, not loud proclamations. Sparky, her little mate though, is all kinetic energy. He's the doer. If you ask him to do something, I'm doing it, I'm onto it. He's the one that plays with the others, who distracts. And then when the signal is given from Dotty, he's the one who's going to test her theories. He nudges the wobbly fence post. He lips at the latch that she has already sussed out. He's the one that's not aligned with any real plan. He's just got to do something. He's the prototype team, the agile sprint. Dotty watches his tests, see what's worked and refines the plan. Then when they all look good, they test the theory and execute as a pair. Lesson number 2. A strategy is just a theory until an implementer starts poking at it to see where the real world weaknesses are. So how does this look in your team rather than in the paddock? Well, in the paddock, Dotty and Sparky have escaped, and they're in somewhere they should not be. In your team, you probably don't have that literal fences, but you have project scopes, budgets and cultural norms. And you definitely have Dotties and Sparkies in your team. Your Dotty is the person quiet during the big loud brainstorming meeting. But an hour later, they send you a Slack message or an email with a subject line like, a thought on the logistics. And inside is a perfectly articulated 3-point plan that solves the very problem everyone was shouting about. They're your data analysis who sees a trend before anyone else. They're your project manager who anticipates a bottleneck 3 weeks before it happens. They lead not with volume like others do, but with vision and foresight. They're that quiet leader. They see the gap in the fence while everyone else is just looking at the gate. And your Sparky? Well, you know who exactly your Sparky is. They're the one who hears a good idea and their eyes light up. They say, I can do it. I can build that prototype by Friday. They're the first to volunteer for a new committee. They bring the energy into the room, the momentum, the bias towards action. They don't always need to know the entire 10-year plan. They just need a credible, exciting direction from a Dotty they trust, and they will start pushing the cart. The magic and the danger happens in the moments that you don't see. The quiet conversation in the hallway, the quick follow-up email after a meeting. That's the equivalent of Dotty nodding at Sparky by the fence line. It's where strategy is handed off to execution. As a leader, if you're not aware of those micro interactions, you're missing where the real work and the real power actually lies. So you have the strategist, Dotty, and the implementer, Sparky. And then there's a third role that is just as critical. And let's be honest, the story isn't just about Dotty and Sparky. It's about you. It's about the role you're playing as the paddock owner, or in my case, or you as the leader of your business or your life. And my biggest blunder with those two wasn't just a weak fence, it was a weak perception. I saw 2 cute 40-odd kilo pets. I completely underestimated their intelligence, their drive, and their ability to coordinate. And you have to ask yourself, how often are you doing the same thing? You look at your team and you see job titles. You see you would call them a junior marketer, a quiet developer, the new person in finance. You pigeonhole them. You see their designated role, not their potential for real influence. Your failure isn't the budget running out, it's your imagination running out first. This leads to the most common leadership trap of the lot, running around like a headless chook. This is reactive leadership, as they say in Australia. They find a hole, you patch it. They find a new way out, you buy a fancier lock. You're always playing catch up, always one step behind their ingenuity. They're clever and they're quiet. Let's take that one step further. You're not just patching holes or trying to keep everyone inside the metaphorical paddock. You're the designer of the whole ecosystem. You're the leader who chooses the terrain. You plant the grass, you decide where the gates go, and you're responsible for asking the most important questions of all. What kind of paddock inspires people to want to stay? Not because they have to, but because they choose to. This is the real work of leadership, not managing tasks, but managing meaning. You create the conditions where a Dotty feels safe to observe and offer strategy without being talked over, where a Sparky feels trusted enough to act without layers of red tape. This is leadership lesson number 3. You are not the centre of the team. You are the steward of the environment where great work happens. And this role doesn't have to be a fanfare. The best leaders don't need to shout their vision from the rooftops, although they do need to allow it to be heard. They're walking the fences early in the morning, checking the feed, noting the weather. They're paying attention to what the system is inviting people to do. Because if your team is always trying to escape, maybe it's not the donkeys that may need fixing. Maybe it's the paddock. So as a leader, you need to stop and ask much better questions. Why are they trying to get out? Is the work no longer challenging? Is the grass genuinely greener somewhere else because you've let your own patch get tired and dry? So have a look in the mirror. Are you just a fence mender, constantly surprised by your team's next move, or are you a proper creator, developer, someone creating an environment so full of purpose and opportunity that no one's looking for a way out? They want to be with you. They want to be in your team. They want to follow your direction, and they also want to bring their own input. Now often there's another player. Picture this wizened old donkey in the paddock with them, with Sparky and Dotty, just like our Paddy. Paddy's seen it all before. He watches Dotty's scheming and Sparky's antics and lets out a world-weary groan. He never tries to escape. He is the dependable, aged donkey, I would say. He knows about the neighbour's cranky dog and the boggy patch of ground behind the shed. He knows where the shed is when it rains and he'll hide in it. He isn't a strategist or an implementer. He's the guardian. He's your finance director who looks over his glasses and says, "And the budget for this is coming from where exactly?" I've heard those come from Paddy's mouth. He's the compliance manager who quietly highlights 6 different risks you hadn't even thought of. He's the senior bloke on the team who says, "Look, mate, we tried that back in 2015 and it was a dog's breakfast." It is so easy to write Paddy off as a stick in the mud, a naysayer, a handbrake on progress. But you get rid of him at your peril because a healthy business needs that tension. Without Paddy, Dotty's brilliant plan and Sparky's keen execution can lead the entire team right off a cliff. The dynamic isn't a duo, it's a trio. You need the vision of Dotty, you need the action of Sparky, and you need the wisdom of Paddy. Success is hammered out in the space between the three. Now there is a shadow side when the uprising turns pear-shaped, and because, let's be blunt, this dynamic can turn properly toxic. Imagine your Dotty isn't planning a breakout for better things, but is the quiet office politician, masterminding a toxic narrative and stirring the pot. And Sparky, yes, Sparky, bless him, because he becomes the loyal foot soldier. He's not malicious, but his energy is pointed in the wrong direction. He's the one carrying the dodgy rumour or the complaint around the office, thinking he's just being helpful. And suddenly there's a donkey uprising. This uprising isn't about finding greener pastures, it's about poisoning the well. Or, as we'd say again in Australia, it's about white-handing the place from the inside out. Your critical job as a leader is to work out the intent behind these powerful partnerships. Are your Dotty and Sparky building something constructive, or are they coordinating an escape from accountability? Are they innovating, or are they staging a quiet coup? Dotty and Sparky, bless them, have given me lots to think about and to share with you this week in the Leadership Podcast. And this week, look past the formal structure of your team. Look for the donkey dynamics that are at play in your world. First, find your Dotties. Who's the quiet thinker, the observer connecting the dots? Don't wait for them to speak up in a noisy meeting. Go and have a quiet word. Get their take on things. You'll be stunned by what they actually know. Second, back your Sparkies. Who's the one who's always keen, always ready to get on the tools and make something happen? Make sure you're aiming their incredible energy at a worthy target. Give them a clear, trustworthy plan and watch them fly. And third, listen to your Paddies. Who's got the guts to ask the hard questions? Don't write them off. They're not being negative. They're providing the stability that lets you take smart risks. So as you head back into your week, remember this: leadership isn't about building a taller fence or straining it so tight. It's about growing better grass. It's not about controlling every move. It's about creating a space where smart, capable people want to stay, contribute and grow. Start noticing the donkey dynamics. Who's quietly watching and thinking? Who's itching to test and try? Who's standing back with wisdom that could save you from a misstep? And most importantly, how are you showing up? Are you present? Are you listening? Are you creating that kind of paddock where great ideas are noticed, good people are nurtured, and even the quietest team members feel trusted to lead on their own? Because the real secret is this: the best leaders aren't the ones who have all the answers. They're the ones who know how to recognise brilliance in others and to give it the space, structure and safety so that it thrives. So whether you're dealing with a cheeky Sparky, a strategic Dotty or a world-weary Paddy, lead them like you lead a herd, with attentiveness, trust and the wisdom to know when to guide, when to listen and when to simply step back and let the natural intelligence of the group shine through. Thanks for coming along with me today. Until next time, keep your paddock strong and your leadership grounded. And remember, it's not about controlling the herd. It's about learning the right to lead it. Thanks for joining me on the Reins of Leadership. Remember to lead with presence and influence with trust. Subscribe for more insights and find resources at mirindasmith.podia.com.